Oh man, there's that continuous slide guitar music comes on. This Maracas Monday. Lots of stuff coming on. Kicked off today with the magnificent President Donald J. Trump forming his Religious Liberty Commission. Here's the president.
And when faith gets weaker, our country seems to get weaker. When faith gets stronger, as it is right now, we're having a very good period of time. After some rough years, good things happen for our country. It's amazing the way it seems to work that way. And under the Trump administration, we're defending our rights and restoring our identity as a nation under God. We are one nation under God, and we always will be. The need for this commission has never been more clear than it was last week when the ineffectual senator from Virginia, a man named Tim Kaine, stated that the notion our rights come from our Creator is, quote, extremely troubling to him. Very troubling, isn't it troubling? Isn't it terrible, though? How he would say something like that, and advocated really by a totalitarian regime. This is what they say. But as everyone in this room understands, it is tyrants who are denying our rights and the rights that come from God. And it's this Declaration of Independence that proclaims we're endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The senator from Virginia should be ashamed of himself for many things. For many things. But things
1000% right, Mr. Trump. I mean, I guess Kaine just wants to throw out the Declaration of Independence, the foundation that built the greatest country in the history of the world, flush that down the toilet, and then equate that to dictators and tyrants. See how they twist everything. They want yes means no, red is blue, yellow is green. You got our kids completely fouled up. We'll get into that in a bit. Destroying men and boys. And we've allowed that culture to pervade through our society for what? At least the last 10 to 20 years. Heavily the last 10 years. So I'm glad we're peeling the onion back. We'll get more into... Trump had a lot of interesting things to say and touched on a lot of different subjects. In his prayer breakfast for the Religious Liberty Commission that he just formed. And he even mentioned probably the greatest reason why is free political speech, which we'll get into just in a little bit. Billy Karen rolls up the Philadelphia Phillies game and how everybody walks, home run, foul balls, get up in the stands, and it's a prize to get a baseball of anybody, and maybe it was especially if you can get somebody who's, one of the top players, but anybody. You get a baseball at a major league game, that's a big deal, especially for a child, especially for a boy. I mean, that's one of the great memories, pleasures in life they will get. So dad gets a home run, dad grabs the ball, hands it to his kid. This yo-yo gets right in his face, and we did that. It was emblematic of what was wrong. The dad takes the ball out of the kid's hands and gives it to this ding-dong. Now she's crying, oh, everybody's hating on me. And for good reason. You know, I got to thank Philly Karen. She's brought Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Green Party, Socialist Party, everybody under one roof.
One of the most bizarre fan interactions you'll see. The Phillies hit a home run into the stands where this guy ended up getting the ball and giving it to his son. He was then grabbed and confronted by a woman who we guess believed that ball belonged to her. After some back and forth, the dad gave in and just gave her the ball. The Marlins noticed what happened and delivered the young fan a goodie bag to try and make it better.
It is, and I'm sure the dad and the son, the boy, appreciated it. Dad should have never gave up the ball. If anything, she should have shoved it down Philly Karen's throat and out her ass. I don't advocate violence, but in a perfect world, that's what would happen. That moron ding dong, you know, and then to cry and whine, oh, everybody's being mean to me. I don't know of anybody that deserves it for pulling that, stealing the memory from that little boy. Looks like he's about 10, 12 years old. You know, getting a home run ball from a Major League Baseball stadium. And that bitch, and I'm going to use the word, that's my opinion of her, and I'm trying to be nice again. She deserves the wrath that everybody's giving her. In that, in a major victory, after the prayer breakfast that Donald J. Trump had forming the Religious Liberty Commission, he now just got, right after that, the Supreme Court of the United States, which there is no appeal after that, lifts the restrictions on LA immigration stops. Now, they didn't rule on the case. They just took the temporary restraining order off that the net case judge put on, you know, with the whole racial profiling, you know, bunch of hillbillies, just a bunch of cops. They're just looking every day to shoot black and brown people and the whole rhetoric crap. See if we can roll up the ABC 7 report.
In court this morning, the High Court has cleared the way for federal agents to conduct sweeping immigration operations in Los Angeles, lifting restrictions from a lower court. Eyewitness News reporter Irene Cruz joins us now live from our newsroom with more on this decision and what it means. Irene.
Yeah, Philip here. Basically, the Supreme Court put a hold on the restraining order affecting ICE agents. Now, previously, a judge barred roving patrols from stopping people based on race, language, job, or location. But after today's decision, agents can go back to doing so, at least temporarily. Now, it was a 6-3 decision at the Supreme Court. Nothing here is final. The pause goes on until the case fully plays out. But back in July, a U.S. district judge found those enforcement tactics violate.
Why are we naming the judge? ABC 7, why are you not naming the judge?
Violated the Constitution. That district judge said agents were detaining people without probable cause and based on stereotypes. However, now the Supreme Court has granted the Trump administration's emergency appeal to block that order. There has not been an explanation for why. Now, we spoke with a law professor at Loyola Law about why this is not a done deal and what this means for enforcement across the country.
This is a quick emergency docket decision. It's potentially just interim relief for the Trump administration. In many ways, I think this gives a thumbs up to ICE agents to, again, continue enforcing immigration law the way they were. And that's a decision that could ripple not just in Los Angeles and California, but really throughout the country.
Yes, they're enforcing the law. Why doesn't Levinson, who is a kook left-wing nut, in my opinion, why does she explain probable cause? They have the right to detain. They don't have to have a search. A cop does not have to have a search warrant to detain you, to ask you questions. And anything he sees out in that area is subject to that. Now, if it's concealed or like, let's say that you've got, I don't know, contraband in the trunk, then that would require a search warrant in almost every case. If he can see or he sees evidence, if he says, halt, I want to ask you some questions, and you run off, he has probable cause to detain you. So these are the things that they don't get into that they should. It's more from the ABC 7 report.
Now, previously with the district judge, the Trump administration argued the order was too restrictive. The acting U.S. attorney, Bill Asaley, also now weighing in on today's announcement. He wrote on X, quote, "We argued the order was overly broad, aiming to hinder our ability to apprehend and remove illegal immigrants in Los Angeles. We are a nation of laws. Federal law enforcement is non-negotiable and cannot be curtailed by any court."
Billy Asaley is on it again. They're enforcing the law. If you got a problem with immigration law, you should get a hold of your congressional representative, Mark Takano, Ken Calvert, and or Alex Padilla or Pencil Neck Shift, our U.S. senators, because they're the ones that set the law. Supreme Court says we see no emergency evidence that the Trump administration, ICE, Tom Homan, Bill Asaley, is doing anything wrong or doing anything unlawful. Let's put it that way. They did name the judge in the article, which who's going to read that? U.S. District Judge Mamie E. Frimpong of Los Angeles said there was a mountain of evidence that enforcement tactics were violating the Constitution. The plaintiffs included U.S. citizens swept up in immigration stops. The appeals court left Frimpong's ruling in place. Supreme Court 6-3 decision comes as immigration and custom enforcement agents step up enforcement to Washington amid Trump's unprecedented federal takeover. Unprecedented federal takeover of the capital city's law enforcement and deployment of the National Guard. Yeah, they didn't add the very successful, and everybody except a few kooks are applauding Trump for making Washington, D.C. in 3 weeks one of the safest cities in the country. Of course, she's a Biden appointee. So we'll see. See, it took him that long, almost to the bottom of the article before we found out. If it's a Trump employee, it's in the headline. You can almost guarantee it. Oh, buffoon Bass. She's probably too old, but she must have been PMSing. I mean, she writes this. Today, the highest court in the country ruled the White House has vast federal agents can racially profile Angelenos with no due process, snatch them off the street with no evidence, or warn or take them away with no explanation. This decision will lead to more working families being torn apart and fear the very institutions meant to protect and not persecute our people. First, the Supreme Court looked at it, said, looks like due process is working just fine in Los Angeles and just about anywhere else. Nobody's being snatched off the street. They're not going down with tanks and armored military style vehicles like Tampon Timmy Walsh did in Minnesota over COVID, saying, "Oh, you're outside of your house, get your ass back in there or we'll blow you to smithereens." Dudes out there with the assault rifles and all that. So shove it straight up your ass fast. You're proving you're the lying skank that you always have been, always will be, communist, Castro supporting piece of trash. Can't say it any plainer than that. I get the right one on. The whole immigration thing is just thoroughly out of control. It's a good thing we have a sensible Supreme Court. I'm not saying I agree with everything they do. I think they could be a lot more aggressive on some of this stuff. More in the Clarence Thomas role. But I mean, I can't say I'm disappointed. This is probably one of the best Supreme Courts of my lifetime, which spans parts of 7 decades. So it's a good thing we have them wheeling back the stupidity sometimes that are in our courts, especially in that Mamie Ping Pong, another one, or whatever the hell her name is. Oh, they're just with the Karen Bass and the whole rhetoric and the 30 mayors that were up there. She had up there all, they're, and the whole thing. Stick it. It's just getting that old. Like Tom Homan said, got a problem with immigration? Dial up your congressman. Because that's where it's at. I'm going to get more back into some of the stuff at Donald J. Trump's new White House Religious Liberty Commission.
Should I tell him the story about what you said to me, Ben? The famous word? He was a very tough opponent. We were fighting it out, and we had actually 18 candidates, including me. And Ben came up to me right after the first debate. He said, "You know you're going to win, don't you?" And I said, "No, I don't know that. I think I'm going to win, but I don't know it." 18 people, and I had never done it before. They had all done it. They were all governors and senators, talented people. He said, "No, you're going to win it because God wants you to win it." Yeah. What? What? But that didn't stop him. We went through. I said, "When is this guy going to quit?" He gave me these words of beauty. Then he goes for weeks and weeks. He was tough.
You just gotta love Trump. And I've never heard that story that Carson had come up and said, "Hey, you're gonna win. God said you're gonna win." Even Trump didn't believe that one. But it was the humorous comment, "Hey, Why did he stay in for 2 more months? That was, again, that's typical Donald J. Trump at his finest. That was one of the cooler clips, as they say. Here's another one from the new White House Religious Liberty Commission.
You take missions only for the country. But this was for the country. And I said, I can't do that one. I'm going to go back. I'm going to be with Ben Carson at Mount Vernon. I believe it's going to be pretty good place, pretty good location, right, Ben? But he's been my friend from the beginning, right from the beginning. Should I tell him the story about what you said to me, Ben? The famous words?
Oh,
He was a very
maybe
tough
the
opponent.
someone-
We were
One day I'll figure out how to run this thing. Let's see if this one, or is it going to give me the same one?
So with us is 12-year-old Shay Encinas from California. Last year in 5th grade, Shay was forced to read a book to a kindergarten student promoting a message of radical gender ideology that is contrary to his religious beliefs and ours. I'd like to have Shay come up and tell the story. It's an amazing story. Shay, please come up.
Young man's from California. You know, we have to lead the world in stupid. What they did to this poor 12-year-old boy is absolutely ridiculous. As they get set up. So he's
Thank you again, Mr. President. Hi, I'm Shane Cetus. I've been a Christian my whole life, and Jesus means everything to me. When I was in 5th grade, my school forced me to teach my kindergarten buddy about changing his gender using a book called My Shadow is Pink. The book said you can choose your gender based on feelings instead of how God made us. I knew this was not right, but I was afraid of getting in trouble. After my family spoke up, the school treated us badly, and kids started bullying me and my brother because of our faith. And the school did nothing to stop it. It hurt a lot, but I kept trusting God. I believe kids like me should be able to live our faith at school without being forced to go against what we believe. I hope no other family has to go through what mine did. Thank you.
From jails, from prisons, from mental institutions.
I hope he's exactly right. No other family should go and suffer what Shay's family did and be forced to read or teach or do something that they would not naturally do. To put that kid through that kind of torture, no kid, 12-year-olds shouldn't be into that stuff anyway. Much less either way. We've gotten so far out that parents are quit parenting their kids.
Also with us is 12-year-old Shay.
We know that. That was the last one we had. But it's fantastic that we have to endure this madness. As Trump said, who would have thought 12 years ago we'd have been debating boys would be, no boys and girls sports or in their girls' locker rooms or bathrooms. 10 years ago, they'd have called you crazy. Yeah, we're dealing with
We
this
had
today.
people from a few different religions, and I was just running. I'd never done it before, so it was very early in the campaign. It was in early 2016, and Trump Tower was 68 stories up in the air, a beautiful boardroom and places loaded up with these people, and they were all excited. And then at the end, I said, I'd love to have your support. And the room went dead silent. Do you remember? It's like, I said, what happened? I know you like me. What happened? Well, would like to talk to you about it later. Anyway, I said, all right, but if we could leave and we'll have another meeting maybe, but I would love to have your support.
And from Texas, as most the South was in the 50s. Okay. He said he wanted to stop this. So he said, okay, you guys can be 501c3 or C4 nonprofits, and you won't pay any taxes. But you can't talk about religion. It's not in the Constitution. It was Lyndon Baines Johnson. Trump didn't know about that when he ran in 16. Most people don't. They think, oh, separation of church and state, which is not in the Constitution. And if you are not, or up to this point until Trump, from 52 to now, I think is when it passed. If you were not a nonprofit 501c3 or C4, you could go up and as a religious, if you were not, you could go up there and say Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom is a piece of trash. Vote for Trump all day, like when they got on Hibbs's case. Trump reversed that. Here we go.
And there was, again, no answer. And I said, well, we'll figure this out. And I went to Paula and some of the others after. And I said, could I ask you, I know when I'm doing well, when I'm doing poorly, and I was doing really well. And then when I asked for support, it was like stone cold silence. They said, we have something called the Johnson Amendment, that if a pastor, minister, rabbi, or imam, or anybody says anything about politics, you can lose your tax exempt status. I said, you got to be kidding. So that's what happened. And they were petrified of it. Yeah. Remember that? Nobody even wanted to talk about it. They were absolutely, they became a different group of people. And I pledged to them at the next meeting, we had another meeting a couple of weeks later with a similar group of people. And I pledged to them that if I win, we're going to get rid of the Johnson Amendment. This was Lyndon Johnson, who had a tremendous fight with a minister from, I believe it was Houston or Dallas. And they didn't like each other. And Lyndon Johnson was a very powerful president. He had good power, good strength. He ended up being very weakened by the position, but he had tremendous power. He was a big deal maker. And he got that done, which is pretty amazing that he could get that done. Everybody fought him, but he got it done. He pushed it through Congress, where you lose your tax exempt status if you even utter a word about politics. And that was amazing when I heard that. I never heard of that before. And I said, we're going to get rid of it. And we got rid of it. You have got, because you're the people we want to hear from. We want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from a lot of people. I hear from too many people. You're the people we respect. Franklin is incredible. All of the people that are up here, I want to hear from these people. And they come from a different place than me. I come from a business place where there's a lot of rough people, bad people, not really religious people. There are some, but you're the people that I want to hear from. That's why we go to church on Sundays, or we go to wherever we are to listen to people of faith. And it was horrible. I said, you mean, when I heard that, and I said to the other people, that means that you should be the most powerful people on earth, in a sense, and yet you have less power. And I pointed down to Fifth Avenue, which was 68 stories below. And I said, that means that anybody on Fifth Avenue, in theory, has more power than you do. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the opposite. We have to give your voices back. And I've given you voices back. And that's one of the reasons that we see upticks now, I think, in religion. So
there you go. Trump gave religious leaders their power back, their constitutional rights. It was Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson and everybody else who took them away and kept them away. Trump has restored religious freedom.
30 seconds, Roy.
And all of this. As Sean said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMT 1490 here in.
No calls yet.
No, she canceled out probably tomorrow. So
All right.
she'll probably be on tomorrow.
Okay, here we go.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday. Live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, kicking off this raucous Wednesday, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join our vast video audience. Well, they threw us off the FB and Rumble. We are still on YouTube, I think, and X of that, but we will soldier on for all you Dr. Kelly Victory fans. She had an event to go to tonight, so she will probably be on tomorrow at this time. So tune in for Dr. Kelly of that. If it isn't tomorrow, it will be Thursday, but I think we'll get it in tomorrow. Lots of wondrous things. The Trump administration, Supreme Court said, yes, you can go out there and enforce the law on immigration. They put a stay on the temporary restraining order. Mamie Ping Pong, or whatever judge name is, radical nutcase. So Tom Homan, Bill O'Saley, Donald Trump can enforce the laws and the safety laws and the lies and the crap, and you can go hit the first part of the show. Again, check it out, probably on YouTube or X, because the other one, I don't know when the other shut off. But it's absolutely 10,000% ridiculous that we have to endure this idiotic stupidity that we keep having to do each and every day. On top of that, and we just ran through it, Trump formed his Religious Freedom Caucus, had a prayer breakfast, and we laid out some of the interesting stuff. 12-year-old Shay goes with Philly Karen, who berated the dad who shouldn't have gave up the ball at the Philly game, but did. The 12-year-old Shay from California who had to read pornographic tranny crap to his school because they forced him to. When can we get to boys, like Trump said in that, even 10 years, 5 years ago, really until the COVID con, if you'd have come back and said, we're going to have this debate of boys and girls sports, or boys, men, and girls locker rooms, bathrooms. People would have said you're absolutely crazy. Just like the religious freedom that's been taken away from churches to talk about politics, mostly through the bribe of tax exempt in the Johnson administration. Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he was head of the Senate in 1952. Said, if you want to be, to quit talking about me, because and if you don't talk about politics, you'll get tax-free status. Trump put an end to that. What, after 70 plus years? 73 years. The economics of education reform. This was in the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going to single out all school districts, but especially the crime syndicate, Moreno Valley Unified, Riverside Unified, Val Verde. We have some bright spots, Chino Valley, Temecula, Murrieta, Redlands now, the other RUSD. Finally getting some board members on there that are doing that. But this is absolutely This is absolutely 10,000% of what's wrong with education. Yo, blame it on somebody else. The white man's putting his thumb on me. It's somebody else's fault. Discrimination, yell and scream. You know, if you put anyone, I don't care if it's a toddler, young boy or girl, teenager, adult, you put expectations in front of them, odds are they will meet them. If you let them do what they want, you're going to have a chaotic society and a society that can't deal with anything. Here's some of the clips from what happened in Houston, Texas.
Doesn't have some unique twist on the subject. My early years in education reform were magical. Education reform was at the top of many politicians' lists of things that they cared about. And reformers who were in the trenches doing the work were American heroes. I had the pleasure to be the person that evaluated the Harlem Children's Home. And what I found there was that in 3 years, they could eliminate the racial achievement gap in math and cut it in a third in reading.
Okay. Eliminate in 3 years the racial reading gap, cut in a third in math. Okay, CJ, Brandy. All this in 10 years, and Corey Jackson and the SBX and mentoring kids, and you hollering and everything else. Oh, we're picking on the blacks. Oh, this. I don't want to hear any more about it because it's plain freaking BS. Any kid can learn. In fact, what? You learn 90% of whatever you're going to learn by the time you're 5 years old, and then it gets more difficult as you roll on. But schools are getting to be the most dangerous thing for kids, not their physical, not the bullying, no, that's part of it, for their mental health, for their academic achievement, and for their future to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
We've created a school to help you all become the smartest boys and girls in the country.
School, because it's giving us more knowledge, and it's like kind of strict, but that's good because it's preparing us for the adult world.
We found that there were 5 things that were associated with really, really high performance in these charter schools. One was more time in school. The second was the really effective schools could not only tell you whether or not you missed a particular point on a test, but they would say, here's why, and here's what we're going to do about it.
Here's why, and here's what we're going to do about it. Not if you write down 2 + 2 and you write down, my kitty cat has not, he's got nice orange and white spots on him and that. No. You pass. No. Put a red check mark by that and say, you didn't get the right answer, because there's only one right answer. Stuff all that crap you've been feeding our kids up your rear ends. And start teaching kids how to be able to function in society. That's what public schools are for. And that's what they were designed for. And that's what they did for probably the first 50, 60, 70 years they were in existence. Now they are complete hellholes destroying kids' lives.
The third was kind of small group tutoring. They tutored kids into small groups in very, very high doses. The fourth was how much teachers got feedback where they could improve their craft. The last one was culture and expectations, because students,
we think investors can still take.
And it's emblematic. Right there. Teachers got to get off their lead asses and start teaching. Schools have got to put the discipline and the focus in to make their learn. No excuses. It's not somebody else's fault. And if parents don't want their kids educated, we can set up daycare centers for them so we can park their asses in there for 8 hours a day or 7 or whatever. Let's get smart about this.
Down to our expectations. And the ones that were successful expected the most.
There you go. You live to whatever expectations are out there of are expected of you. Good, bad, and ugly. Up or down. This ain't Roy talking. Well, I have been preaching that to you guys for decades. I've been preaching that to schools since I walked into kindergarten at Midland School in Moreno Valley, or Sunnymead at the time, in 1966. You talked to my well, if he's still around, Chuck Orr, said I was running the class in the 5th grade at Midland School. And he was the teacher.
And so we looked around and we implemented these 5 things as 20 of the lowest performing schools in Houston. And we found that in the elementary schools, we could close the math achievement gap in 3 years. It took 5 years for English language arts. And in our high schools, every single student was accepted into a 2 or 4 year school when they graduated. And then the idea was Houston was going to take it on and continue the hard work that we had started. Well, that didn't quite happen.
Of course it didn't happen. 5 principles, very simple, have been in place for anything since humankind, since the history of human beings. It's not rocket science, doesn't take a lot. It takes what it takes to foul it up. It takes evil people, evil administrators in the school, evil school board members, evil teachers who only care about money. California teachers, prorated, if they worked a full year, get a compensation package of $180,000 a year, $24,000 per year per student, 3 times higher than it was 10 years ago, and you are fouling up even worse. Every one of you should hang your heads in shame. And this is how Houston got it in, got the kids, kind of on that darker brownish shade, skin tone. Didn't make excuses, didn't do that. They were expected to learn, and they did. Just like Jaime Escalante down in East LA, Garfield High, taught those Mexicans that couldn't learn, that couldn't do calculus, and blew everybody out of the water with it.
And what the school district did instead was say, oh, these schools are no longer the worst. So let's take the money from them. We spent $1,836 more per kid per year. They took the money from these schools and gave it to those at the bottom.
We were the worst in the district 2 years ago. Now we're average, which is a good thing. But these kids need us. They have no other path.
The end result in Houston is that those schools slid back down to the bottom. And how many lives were wasted?
How many more lives are you going to waste at these schools? You reward failure? You know what you're going to get? More failure. Drill it into your head if you haven't got that concept, because either that or you're greedy, evil, self-centric, egotistical, narcissistic pieces of crap human beings. You got two choices. Either fix this or admit what you are. And I will tell you this, every one of you, school board member, teacher, administrator, the Rube, have some balls, Rube. Sit right here beside me. And let's debate these and discuss these topics, because you, with all your credentials and everything else, you should be able to blow the 6th grade educated ditch bank Okie out of the water. Why won't you do it? Ain't you got enough intellectual, any of you, Brandy Clark, Brent Lee, you got any integrity? You got any intellectual ability? You got guts? No. Well, you can do it when you're controlling it, or you'll run around talking about all this stuff, and you'll put the plans in place that are exact failures. And will fail all these, or practically all these kids. It's criminal. It's flat criminal what you've been doing. This, you with your TKs, this and that, I put the challenge out to you. Okay. Put them in TK, transitional kindergarten. What you're trying to, oh, it's 4 hours a day, like kindergarten full time with this. Oh, you got to start them earlier. Well, you didn't do that. I said, okay, fine. They're learning quicker. Then we could take 2 years off the top. We should be graduating with 16 or when they're sophomores. We're going to start a year earlier and they're learning faster. Well, let's cut 2 years off the top. This is on CNN. Tennessee students who are older at kindergarten enrollment perform better on 3rd grade literacy tests than their peers. All this, oh, if you get them into kindergarten, they're going to do this. Oh, if you get them to TK, they're going to do the. By the time you get to 6th grade, TK of that, they did it with TK. In Tennessee, all schools, by the time you got to 6th grade, those who did not go to TK were outperforming those who did. Biggest comprehensive study we've done to date. More from it's called redshirting, like you do in sports. Like if you're in college football or something and you get injured, call it redshirt, you get another year of eligibility or another year of doing that. Here's more from the CNN. This is why you're destroying. You're destroying kids' lives, especially boys.
Tennessee finding that redshirted students perform better later on in 3rd grade literacy tests than their peers. Reeves explains why he's concerned about this growing trend of banning redshirting and why parents should strongly consider holding back their boys in kindergarten. What are your big issues with education and men and boys?
The education system has become less boy-friendly over the last few decades. There's a few reasons for that. One is a huge decline in the share of male teachers. And I think that inevitably has an effect on the culture and ethos of the school. And we do.
Ever get a sign the universe is trying to tell you something?
No. There you go. I talk about the war against the straight white male. It's been against boys, everything. This whole thing with the boys and the girls sports and all this other crap. It's been to destroy.
Sure that having some men around helps, because whether we like it or not, there are differences in the way that we behave. And so having male teachers around just really helps us not to immediately pathologize the way in which boys are acting. I think
how many times have I told you ladies, the smarter half of the population, you're going to rue the day. You're going to rue the day you turned all of us men into women. There are differences. Sports, the way we think. We're the retarded half of the population. We will never think on a high intellectual plane as you and the smarter half of the population. So deal with it.
one of the problems is that we have this view about how a student should be. And so sit still for a certain period of time, focus on abstract work, have a certain level of like emotional maturity. And probably that student we've got in mind is a girl. And if boys aren't like that, we treat them like malfunctioning girls. Sort of defective female students in a way. And so they get overdiagnosed with ADD, etc. Or some.
Quit turning boys into girls, men into women. You know, we're different. Yeah, we have a short attention span. Yes, we're not as neat. Deal with it. Or you're going to have 50% of the population is either defective, starting out as defective female students, and then defective females running around the earth as adults. This stuff, and again, all you cats want to think I'm a ding dong or whatever, and all that stuff I come up and talk about. At the school boards and the city council and the county supervisors and on the radio and everything else is a bunch of hooey. Argue the facts as they are presented. Deal with reality. The reality is we have effed up the public school system. Hopefully not beyond repair, but it's getting close if we keep going at the way we're doing it. Get your head out of your rear ends and start doing the jobs, school boards, administrators, teachers, that you are paid extremely well to do, especially in California. Give me the poverty crap. 180 grand a year compensation package if they're working a full year. Average California teacher salary. You got 24 grand per kid, 720 grand for 30 kids per class in a year, and you can't get the job done. If you can't get the job done, please, school board members, superintendents, administrators, teachers, quit today, and we'll get somebody in there that knows what the hell they're doing. We'll hit some of the local genre before we roll out on this Monday. Of course, it's a weekend. There's all sorts of neat stuff, as they say, going on here in the IE. See what the first one up on the hit parade is. Rancho C cops did 5 arrests and 38 citations in their DUI checkpoint. 15-year-old strapped with a ghost gun arrested after foot pursuit. It was in Purdue. Sabrina Cervantes is filing legal claims and suing over her DUI citation. Cops and clergy of Riverside County Sheriff's Office and Harupa Valley Station are meeting here fairly soon. So, good job of that. Yes, good. Be a good boy, Gavin, and fix your state. One of our great memes of the day. World Outlaws sprint cars are coming to Parasauto Speedway this Saturday night. Ride Out for Awareness and Suicide for suicide awareness, I'll get that out, is coming from Moval to Hemet. Cops and kids of San Bernardino and Riverside are teaming up for a toy drive, so you're inclined to participate in that, help out a kid, please do so. Trump administration investigates Medicaid spending on immigrants in California. Southern California man charged after a deadly assault in Temecula. I comply because I want it to end. It's because you comply that it will never end. Another one of our great memes on IE Newswire over the weekend. Riley's Farms had a good pick and crop out there. And they'll be there next week. Family of slain misplaced inmate sues Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Many people had a negative opinion about Dave Allen's recent vacation in Portland and Seattle. Yeah, it's a hellhole. We know that. Riverside Library to be named after late veteran. Oh, we had 2 big fires in Lake Elsinore and Harupa Valley. As they say, San Bernardino cops were not playing bumper cars. That was an interesting story. Catch it on IE Newswire. That'll do it today. Take it away, Sean. That'll do it for today.
All right, Roy, take it easy. I will talk to you tomorrow.
Okay, so it's be the same procedure if we got Kelly on tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
You got it.
Bye now.